All right, guys, so we're gonna be taking a look at the mount now, right? So again, little bit opposite of our closed guard, right? So we'll be talking about similar concepts from the bottom position. You guys will see a lot of this gift wrap from other positions as well, but we're just gonna talk about attacking from the mount, and you guys will see later on how this gift wrap will translate in multiple different directions. But for now, my opponent's looking to stay tight. If you guys are Alex and you're on the bottom, general rule, don't start giving your opponent your arms, zombie arms, trying to grab their head, trying to punch them, right? If it was a street fight, don't start pushing up on your friend's chest. Once you start to expose your elbows, guys, you're dooming yourself there. So Alex is playing a little conservative, trying to get on his hip, trying to shrimp, right? That would really be best case scenario. Dan's trying to stay heavy and keep Alex flat, okay? So a nice way to do this is to cross the ankles underneath the hips, thrust your hips into your opponent's stomach, and that skydive there is going to help from your opponent shifting and getting on their side, okay? And once we can keep Alex flat, Dan's going to take a nice 2-on-1 on his top hand, okay? Yeah, and that top hand's going to be a little bit easier to break versus that bottom one, and he's going to pin that wrist to the mat, okay? And we're going to make sure we use like a, what I like to call a handlebar grip, so as if you were to be riding a bike, okay? So Dan winds up using that handlebar grip to pin down Alex's arm, palm up, and the nearest hand to his head, he's gonna wind up dropping at a 90-degree angle, so Alex can't turn into him. So the structure of his arm is what's stopping Alex from taking his arm and tucking it in a little bit tighter and keeping it safe, right? Now to finish the key lock, the shoulder lock, is him reaching underneath the bicep, tricep, okay, making sure that the elbow is far past his arm. He gets another handlebar grip there, right, knuckles on top. He's gonna lift his back elbow up towards the ceiling, and using Alex's hand as a paintbrush, one swoop backwards towards him is gonna start to tear that shoulder, okay? Now, as Alex does a really good job at defending this, he may be trying to buck his hips, turn to that side, right, and start to pull his arm a little bit closer to his rib cage. Okay, now being that key locks are quite hard to finish, especially as you guys get a little bit more advanced, you'll see that a key lock is more of a bait than it winds up being a submission. But as Alex gets a hold of this here, Dan's gonna start to make another plan. So notice how Alex's arm is now stuck under Dan's chest, okay? This is gonna give Dan a lot of options from here now. So that same arm that was just reaching up underneath Alex's arm is actually gonna feed through his arms and around his neck now. And Dan's gonna wind up posting his head to the opposite side, making a sandwich between his neck and Alex's arm being in the middle there. Okay. Now, if Dan really wants to effectively finish this choke, he's going to gable grip his hands, offset himself from Alex's waist. Knee on belly is nice. Nice strong shoulder pressure, and pulling your hand as far deep underneath the head as you can possibly get it. Okay. Lay on that choke for a bit, and there we go. Okay. So, rule of thumb with this choke here, guys, is this is a blood choke. It takes a little bit of time to finish. So don't be in a rush and squeeze the heck out of your opponent, right, thinking that you're going to get the tap like that. So learn to settle in, drop your head to the mat, drop your waist to the floor, okay? Nudge that shoulder in nice and tight and let time do the work. Don't go 100% squeeze for 5 seconds. 50, 60, 70% squeeze for 30 seconds to a minute. That's really what we want. Okay, so let's keep going based off of our opponent's reaction. So first attack we're looking for is that key lock. He pins it down, palm up. He creates a nice strong frame next to Alex's neck. So now it's harder for Alex to turn in. Okay, if Dan keeps his hips heavy, he might have a good chance of finishing this. Okay, high level opponent probably won't have it. So let's account for the next move there, right? Alex bucks his hip hard. He turns in. He protects his own hand, right? Dan's gonna feed back through and go for the same choke, right? But now Alex is hip to it. So he's not gonna let Dan get away with this. Rather than have his shoulder blocking his carotid artery off to the side, Alex is actually going to wind up grabbing his own arm and pulling it in between his legs. He's creating some space on his neck there. And what will even help him some more is if he turns to the side and continues to pull that arm down. Dan's ready for this. Okay, so notice
Dan's knee is aligned with Alex's hips, okay? We're always looking to stay as tight to our opponent's hips as possible. And he's gonna slide that knee a little bit higher up, keeping that same head and arm grip that he's got, and he's gonna wind up switching to what we call the gift wrap there, okay? So this is kind of like that moment of truth for the mount. If we can catch the gift wrap off this head and arm triangle or this key lock, we're in a really, really, really good place to start attacking the back, to start taking arm bars, to start taking triangles. But this is where we're going to be looking to get to, whether it's off the choke or off the key lock, okay? So I think we could maybe just shift a little bit. 45, nice. Okay, so we use the key lock, we use the head and arm choke. Alex has 2 successful defenses at both of our attacks, but now we got him right where we want him, okay? So first thing we'll look at is getting to our spiderweb position that we had just spoken about, right? And all Dan's going to look to do is keeping the Kimura grip on the arm, right? Wrist control on his own wrist, just like he used for the key lock. He's going to unhoop Alex's head, and he's going to put some force, leaning almost like a post on Alex's neck to keep him in place, okay? Now, in order for Dan to get this leg over Alex's head, he needs to make sure there's no weight on his leg. So your weight distribution is going to shift towards your opponent's hips as you pull their tricep tight to your chest, okay? So we get some weight distribution towards the hips. It frees up the leg for him to step on over, and he's gonna sit right to his butt, okay? Notice he doesn't fall all the way back to his back and create some space at the arm, but he's keeping that Kimura grip nice and tight. If you guys wanna learn how to finish up these arm bars from here, I check out the spiderweb video, okay? Let's hop back to that mount. Okay, so using the key lock or the head and arm choke, we find our way into the gift wrap, okay? Another option, other than the arm bar there, using the gift wrap, okay, Dan can actually release his right arm out from under there, and he's gonna pin Alex's bottom hand. So now he's keeping one arm in, and he's keeping one arm out, right? And we know general rule of thumbs for triangles as a defense, 2 arms in, 2 arms out, right? So Dan starts to isolate that bottom arm, and he can literally just step that foot right underneath Alex's head and make contact with his ankle by grabbing, just like we did from the back control, okay? Now, choosing to either stay in the mount, which is probably ideal for Dan, he's gonna drop that knee, that choking leg to the mat, swivel so he's square with Alex, figure 4 his legs, and a nice easy finish is to just make sure that arm is passed across the neck. We're gonna pull up on the head and just kind of drop those hips a little bit, and we get the tap there. Mounted triangle. Okay, same thing, guys. Making sure in this crooked mount, Dan's got his heel curled nice and tight to the hip. He's got his thigh in line with Alex's back, so there's not too much space between his inner thigh and Alex's back, staying real tight around our opponent. He's got the gift wrap. He chooses to go for the armbar. That's one option, okay? We use our Kimura grip and unhoop the head. The next option, maybe he pulls that arm out, controlling the wrist still, double wrist control, right? The triangle is the second option, okay? Third option, right? Maybe your opponent's real tight, real strong. You decide attacking the upper body may not be the best bet from here. Dan goes back to his Kimura grip on Alex's top arm. He glues his chest to his back, and using the knee that he's posting on, he's gonna lift Alex straight up to his butt and sit to the opposite hip, okay? And what this is going to put Dan in, referring back to the back control video, if you haven't already watched it, is our 3 golden rules of being on the underhook side, beating him with the head position closest to the mat, and the body lock being on the opposite side. If you guys haven't reviewed that, make sure you check out the back control video.